Hey, I'm Eric Rokeach with FitnessBusinessInterviews.com, and I'm here with Rick Kaselj. And I'm really excited to have Rick here because Rick's doing things a little bit differently than most other people in the business. A lot of people are focusing on group training and boot camps and running personal training businesses. Rick's a personal trainer who focuses on designing exercises with people for injuries. And I'm really excited to find out how he's building his business and what he's doing to help others out there. So, Rick, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Awesome to be here.
All right, so I'd like to find out a little background information with everybody, so they get to know you. Want to know how you got into the industry.
Um, how did I get into the industry? While going through school, high school, I was pretty active into sports, and what I wanted to become was a physical therapist. So I ended up going to university and getting a kinesiology degree. I ended up working in a variety of physical therapy clinics, and the part that I liked about physical therapy was the exercise side of things. The exercises when it related to the injury side of things. So when I graduated, I started working in training studios, focusing on people that had injuries. So they would come into whatever setting I was in. The challenge they had was that they had a previous injury that they needed to deal with. So I ended up getting them. And that's kind of how it all evolved from 2005 on to now, kind of focusing on designing exercise programs for people with injuries.
What was it about the injury side of things that attracted you to focus on that?
I like the challenge of it and figuring out what's going on. So a lot of times with a client that has an injury or complicated medical conditions, a lot of times, they're quite a complex client. And I kind of like that, unraveling the complexity and kind of figuring out what's going on and what can be done when it relates to like movement and exercise, when it relates to their injury and specific chronic condition.
There's so many different routes that you could have taken. I mean, like I said, people were going boot camps, personal training, all kinds of different ways. Why did you decide to go that route over maybe doing, let's say, a boot camp or something else?
I mean, big part of it was passion. I really enjoyed working with those type of clients. I saw there was a void in the market, meaning a lot of times what would happen was people would have some sort of injury, or they would have a previous injury that might have been closed medically, like there's no more medical investigation that's being done. They want to start an exercise program, but they're they don't know how to start. They're fearful of injuring themselves. They are kind of lost. So I wanted to kind of fill in that gap and be the person that can help them, kind of move them through their injury and then move them through to fat loss or whatever their other goal was. So I ended up seeing this gap. And a lot of times what I would see was, physical therapists and doctors would say, oh yeah, okay, your back's fine. We're not going to do surgery. We're not going to do any more tests. Now you need to go exercise. And they'd kind of wander in the gym completely lost, not knowing what to do. So I try to fill in the gap with that type of person. So this is what you do to strengthen your back. This is the exercises that'll help you with your back. And then we get that back strong, and then we can kind of move on to their other goals. And that's kind of what I ended up doing. So a little bit different. I mean, when it came to the fat loss stuff, I wasn't really passionate about it. When it came to the group fitness side of things, once again, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't super passionate about it. I was passionate about the people that had injuries. And I was also passionate about the fitness education, so teaching other fitness professionals when it came to designing exercise programs for people with injuries. I was passionate about that.
All right, so you just basically went straight after what it was that you were passionate about.
Oh no, no, there was no
No?
straightness.
Okay.
I end up trying a whole bunch of things. So
Okay.
you end up trying it all. So you end up graduating, and I was mainly in the physical therapy clinic, but you end up trying it all. You end up trying the personal training, you end up trying the weight loss, you end up trying the group fitness stuff. You end up trying the body part training, you end up trying various equipment training, and you find out what you end up being passionate about and what you end up enjoying. And what ends up being, what do you end up enjoying doing, and what do you end up looking forward to doing compared to what's work, or what do you not look forward to. You end up kind of figuring it out. You know what you're passionate about.
Right. So now you're working, once you graduated, a couple different places. You were working in studios, right? It kind of broke up before, so I didn't hear when you said that.
I ended up after graduating, I ended up working at um, I ended up working in a physical therapy clinic.
Okay.
So there was physical therapists who do the assessment and then hand them over to me to implement the exercise program side of things. I was also working at that time in a recreation center as well. So I was working in the physical therapy clinic and in the recreation center. And then I ended up working in a large rehab center, which is you end up getting really complicated people with injuries.
Right.
And there you end up having like a doctor on staff and an occupational therapist and a physical therapist and a psychologist. So I ended up handling the exercise side of things. And and then I left that environment and started working more in the fitness centers, recreation centers, seeing clients in their homes,
Mm,
seeing clients one on one.
interesting. Now, when you went into those different centers, when you went in there, did you let them know, say, listen, this is my background. I'm specialized better in dealing with people with injuries and helping them than I am instead of just doing general training? Did you let them know that?
Um, I did. It depended on the location. Yes, I would let them know. But the other thing was in my area, I was teaching a lot of fitness courses when it came to exercise rehabilitation, I call it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the fitness professionals in my area knew about me because of my emailing out and my blog. So when I would end up going to the gyms and the rec centers, they would kind of know who I was and knew what my specialty was just from my emails and from my blog.
Okay, well, let's dive into that because I know that's the main part of your business. I know. Tell me how you got started in, with your newsletter and doing presentations.
Yeah, I mean, how the presentations evolved was I was doing this unique stuff, designing exercise programs with people with injuries. I was getting more and more questions from fitness professionals when it came to what I was doing and what to do for a rotator cuff injury, what to do with a low back injury. And that ended up evolving the fitness education courses, so teaching live courses when it comes to what I do. So that kind of ended up evolving. So as I started doing these courses, I ended up end up having to communicate with people. They need to register with you. They end up oftentimes giving you their email, and the easiest way to kind of communicate with them was through email, letting them know what courses are coming up, the registration details. So I kind of I what I heard at that time was like Ryan Lee was talking about, try to build your list, build the number of emails that you had. So what I tried to do was get those emails from people that registered and try to communicate with them on a monthly basis on, some sort of content, some sort of article I wrote,
Mm-hmm.
and update them on upcoming courses. So that ended up I think I ended up doing that. I think my first website might have been 2003. It was a really basic GeoCities
Yeah.
website, like way back. And then I outgrew that and then got my own custom website. I think that was 2005. And and then that custom website was very much focused on my services and some of my teaching. And then in 2007, I started a blog, and then in 2008, I started a WordPress blog.
Okay. So a lot of this all stemmed from, you were working all different places, but you were doing the presentations before you got into the website side of things. Is that right?
Yeah, as I kind of did more and more presentations, your suite of courses end up growing, and you need to direct people to a specific spot where they can go to get more information on you and your courses. So that's how the website and the blog ended
Right.
up evolving, because it was a lot easier just to kind of direct people to a website than it was to mail them flyers
Right.
or try to return all the phone calls that you got.
Right.
And so I ended up doing that, and then this thing about blogging ended up coming up, that you should blog and it helps with search, helps people find you and helps you
Mm-hmm.
build a reputation of being knowledgeable in a specific field.
Right. Now you were saying, it's better than giving out flyers or doing any of that type of thing. But when you first started giving your presentations, what were you doing to get people to come to them?
I ended up looking at where I looked in my area where fitness professionals were, and I ended up advertising in the associations around me. So I looked at the main associations around me, where I am in Vancouver, Canada, and I would end up advertising with them and making my courses, submitting to them and letting them know my courses are available. And that's pretty much how I ended up starting it, was advertising with the associations around me, and that ended up starting things. And then I would get people to register, and then I would have their email address, and then I would update them on courses that are coming up.
Okay.
And then they would oftentimes drop the flyer off at their place of work or let their friends know.
Okay.
And
Were
it
you
kind of
charging
snowballed.
for them or no? Or were these free when you first started?
The courses,
Yeah.
I always charged for the courses.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now
And
you
but I
must
mean
have.
the price all has kind of evolved. Right at the start, I did it. I was really passionate about it. I really thought there was really a gap in the market when it came to that, and I was charging very minimal. But now it's kind of increased more and more as it's become a specialization.
Were you well known at the point when you started doing these courses and presentations?
No, no,
Okay.
no one knew who I was. I just did them. I
Okay.
mean, I saw the gap in the market, and so I did them. I had
Okay.
some support from one of the associations near me, and I had support from one of the colleges. So one of the associations was, really getting the word out about me because it really helped their members. And then one of the colleges, gave me space to kind of
Hmm.
teach the courses. So I kind of took that opportunity and kind of built on it, and I just kind of keep building and building on it.
Interesting. And the reason I'm asking about the charging and the fees is because a lot of people, I believe, and it worked well for me, was public speaking and talking to groups of people were great. But a lot of people
Mhm.
talk about, they have a tough time even finding places to speak, let alone getting people to pay for it. So it's pretty interesting to me that right off the bat, you were able to partner up with a couple people and you had people paying you to come in, which I thought was a great thing. Now,
Yeah.
how many would you say, as a rough number, early on would you get to you know, come to these
It's always
courses?
it ranged from 10 to 30 people.
That's
That
great.
ended up being about the range. So it wasn't a huge number, but it all varied between 10 to 30 people would end up coming.
All right. Now, were you doing anything once they paid for the courses and they were in there? Were you doing anything offering products that you had to sell, or were you just, offering up information at that time?
At that time was just information. It's just kind of the growth of the business. At the start, it was just training, and
Mm-hmm.
then I added the courses, and then people wanted more stuff, more information, something physical. So then I started offering the products, and those ended up being physical, like books, manuals, DVDs,
Okay.
and then now it's kind of moved into digital stuff
Right.
because with the blog, you're able to reach people around the world, and yeah, you can send them a manual, but depending where they are in the world, that'll take them 2 to 4 weeks to get it. While
Right.
usually they can get it right away and download it and get it instantaneously.
Right. So you're doing these presentations, you're collecting everybody's contact information, you're emailing them saying, "Hey, I've got another course coming up. Are you interested?"
Mhm.
Would you get people coming to you for multiple courses, or were they kind of just one and done type of deals?
It would vary. Some people would just be one and done. Some people would come to a couple courses, then leave the profession, and
Mm.
then some people would come to one a year, and some people would come to all of them. So you ended up having a mixed bag of people that would end up coming.
How did you determine what exactly to make for your courses, or to pitch or present?
I mean, you'd end up surveying them to get an idea of what they were looking at, and
Okay.
that surveying ended up, well, it wasn't a hard survey, it was just doing an evaluation at the end of the course in
Hmm.
order to get an idea of what kind of courses that they wanted. And what I ended up focusing in on was just the injury side of things. So I ended up covering the whole body, like the neck, shoulder, back, elbow, hip, knee, ankle, foot,
Hmm.
balance, and then core training when it related to uh, the back, the inner and outer unit, and the scapular stabilization muscles. That's kind of what I ended up evolving when it came to the courses. And then now I'll go into each of the injuries in more in depth and that's what relates to the products.
Okay, now I'm curious because you've been doing this for so long now and you're presenting, you've got all these products out. What's the area of injuries where you find that most people are most interested in correcting?
It ends up being back, knee, shoulder. I
Okay,
find those are the top three.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so got the presentations, the courses. You've got some basic websites early on. You said the
Yeah.
GeoCities website, which is great. I
Yeah.
think we all had something like that when we were
That's old school.
when we were younger. You're moving on. You kind of got another custom website after the GeoCities one. What were you doing to bring traffic and make people more aware of what you were doing outside of the presentations?
I wasn't really doing anything. I was just focusing in on, trying to, you know, write articles for those associations and get it in their newsletters, get my courses on their calendar of events, doing advertising in their newsletters, trying to get the word, people that attended, giving them flyers,
Mm-hmm.
and then emailing them when it came to upcoming courses and some content. That's really all I ended up doing at the start.
Okay.
And then this blog thing started happening, and as you kind of blogged and you blog decent stuff, um, it would be found by Google, and some of your blog posts would stay high on Google when it relates to specific search terms.
Right. Right. Now, I just wanted to jump into a little bit more into the specialization side of things because that's really what's defined you and your business. There's a lot of gurus out there that keep saying, specialize or niche down, and you've done that. Why do you think a lot of people don't do that, or they continue to stay in a broad range or like a broader niche?
I mean, I understand at the start, like I was trying to do everything because you want to take all the clients.
Hmm.
You might not have a client base where you're successful or really busy, so you take every single client that comes your way and you let them know, yeah, I can do it all. Yeah, I can do it all. But in time, you end up having to kind of specialize. Like, what's that one or two words that describe you? And with me, it's like, Rick's the injury guy.
Hmm.
I mean, go see Rick. He'll help you with your injury. So, I mean, at the start, I kind of understand that everyone or people want to take everyone on because they don't want to say no to anyone. But in time, um, you end up needing to kind of focus and specialize and be that person for that specific group of people. So I think it's kind of important to do that.
How far would you say? Let's say someone's been in business for a little while and they're at that point, and they want to niche it down or specialize. How far down do you think they should go, so that way they're still successful, but it's not so small that they're hurting themselves?
I mean, and they end up they have to look for the niche. It all ends up varying because you end up having people that will do sports training, sports conditioning, and they'll cover all sports. But then in my area, you end up having people that just focus on hockey. You have
Hmm.
people that focus just on curling. You've got people that focus on baseball players, but then you have people that focus just on pitchers when it relates to baseball. So, I mean, your niche can be, I mean, there's kind of varying levels to your niche. It can just be general fitness. It can be fitness and fat loss. It can be fitness and fat loss for females. It can be, fitness and fat loss for females of a specific age group. So depending on how large the market is and you being able to kind of tap into that market will determine how successful you are.
So you'd say the market is one of the bigger factors in determining what size niche you should focus on?
I would, yes, yeah,
Okay.
because it's difficult. Let's say here in my area, it's easy to. It's not easy, but there's a lot of hockey players, so you
Hmm.
can do strength and conditioning for hockey players. But you probably wouldn't have a very good business when it comes to beach ball volleyball strength and conditioning training because people don't do beach ball volleyball here, or they do it for 1 or 2 months of the year.
Right. Now, there's something else I know that's helped you in specialization, that's really catapulted what you do and how well you are at it, and that's research. I know you're very passionate about research. For me, that's not something I'm passionate about at all. How did you determine that that was something that you really enjoyed and that you put all your all into it?
I mean, once it was another gap in the market. I saw. I mean, I was teaching fitness professionals, and I saw that. I knew that they hated the research, but they wanted to know that they were doing the right thing. They were doing the right thing.
Hmm.
And so what I focused on was the injury side of things. So look at the research, what's new when it relates to exercise and injuries, and then filtering that down for a fitness professional and giving it that to them in a format that will help them out. So that's kind of what I did. I mean, I like to see what's new out there, what's coming out. I mean, it interests me, but I also understand that fitness professionals want to know the latest research. They don't want to spend hours looking it up. They want someone to kind of digest it for them and give it to them. And that's what I end up doing when it comes to the injury side of things.
How do you think the research and being passionate about it has helped you?
I mean, it leads to more credibility, right? A lot of
Hmm.
people, if they see that I train clients, that's a level of credibility. They see that I teach, that's a level of credibility. They see that I put out all these products, it's a level of credibility. And then they see that I'm always kind of looking at the research to see what is new on a regular basis to kind of improve my success with clients, my teaching, and my products. So, I mean, I think it ends up being a credibility thing. I think they like the fact that I stay on top of things when it comes to the injury side of things.
And that's great to hear because, like I said, if I was looking to for injuries, I'd go to you because you've already done all the work for me, and it's pretty
Yeah,
much summed up in a little summary. So
yeah,
that's a good
yeah,
thing. You're doing the done for you for everybody. So, all
yeah,
right, so let's jump back into the timeline a little bit. We kind of left off. We're doing presentations. You've got basic websites going on. You
yeah.
weren't doing too much to bring in traffic. At what point did you realize, all right, I'm going to really start focusing online and trying to turn this into something?
I think 2007, I started the Blogger blog,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of blogged, and then I had that my other site, healingthroughmovement.com, which was my services site, and I was doing an article a month, contacting the email list. I was noticing with healingthroughmovement.com, the traffic was going up, and then what came on the market was WordPress. So I ended up getting a WordPress blog created, and I think that was 2000. I think it was 2009 that I ended up getting that WordPress blog created, and then I started. Now instead of going through Healing Through Movement, I put everything on the exercisesforinjuries.com WordPress blog, and then started to increase my frequency when it came to writing. From once a month to twice a month to once a week to
Mm-hmm.
twice a week. Focusing on, focusing on the injury side of things. And then what I was noticing was that I was starting to get sign-ups and traffic from people from around the world. So I had my local courses that people could attend in Vancouver, but what I was finding was people from around the world were kind of coming to my blog when it came to various injuries that I was talking about.
Interesting. All right, so you're doing that. It was at that point when you switched to WordPress where things started to really pick up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, yeah. That's when it ended up starting to pick up when it came to WordPress. It's just a lot easier to use. It's a lot easier to um, put plugins that kind of
Mm-hmm.
move the blog onto steroids, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a lot easier to kind of track to get an idea of where you're getting traffic, what people are reading. Um, yeah.
Okay. Were you selling when you first jumped onto the WordPress platform? Were you selling any products?
I not right at the start. I had some that were done, and then I slowly transitioned them from physical to digital. So I did have some products that were done. I slowly kind of transitioned them onto the blog.
Okay. What were you doing with the physical products you had before that? Who were you selling them to, and how were you selling them?
I ended up selling them to the fitness professionals that attended my courses, so they were on the email list, and so I kind of finished off like four or five of them, and then
Mm-hmm.
offered a big discount to them if they bought all of them, a big package of them all, and then I printed a whole bunch off, and then mailed them off to them, and then I would email them and remind them of a product I had, and I would get sales here and there. And that's when I ended up kind of seeing the potential when it came to
Mm-hmm.
selling products online. It was people were asking for it when I was teaching the courses, and then now I actually had something,
Interesting.
and and, and then it just kind of grew from leaving I do still have some physical, but now it ends up being more and more digital because you can get it right away instead of having to wait a week or two, or having to pay just a crazy amount of shipping to have it sent to you
Right.
in South Africa.
Right. I'm curious, with the presentations, you were charging people to come in, but you're also selling the products. Were you making more
Yeah.
money on the back end selling the products than for what people were paying for to come in?
Um, at the start, it was a supplement. It was kind of a nice little extra,
Mm-hmm.
and then now, as you end up having more and more of them, it ends up increasing. You end up doing probably about the same when it comes. Well, it all ends up depending. Sometimes it can be a supplement. Sometimes it can be equal to the amount that you bring in for the course.
Okay. And how would you pitch or present a product if you're giving the course? Kind of go run through an example if I was sitting there, how you would pitch me on to buy your product.
In the course, I never really pitched. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
would oftentimes I would at the start of the course I'd give them the course handout, and then I would give them a flyer, which ended up having upcoming courses and my products, and then I would oftentimes give them a deal.
Okay.
Like I would oftentimes say, okay, if you order from me today, you'll save 25% or 50%, or if you buy all of them, you get them for this rate. So I'd let them know at the beginning of the class, I'd do the class, and then I'd remind them at the end about the books and products, and I'd have them out at the side.
Okay. So you're using scarcity as your main selling point. Say if you walk out this door, you don't get that 20% discount. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I ended up finding out that ended up working the best.
Okay.
They're there if you give them an outstanding deal at that time that they can't get on the website or via email. That ended up working out best for me.
And what type of follow-up? Once someone came, they bought your product, they got it to them, how much would you follow up with them in terms of emails and just to see where they are with everything?
Um, I would a lot of times they're already on my list because they've registered for a course, so I
Okay.
never really took their order and then put them into a specific autoresponder sequence. That's something I didn't do, but they're kind of already on my list, and I would keep in touch with them one to twice a week.
Okay. All right. And
Yeah.
you were physically mailing them out. Were you doing it yourself, or did you have some sort of distribution center to mail the products to everybody?
Initially, I mailed them all out, but then you end up the ones that end up being successful, the ones that so that's a key point, right? Not all of them are home runs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them you end up selling five, and that's it. And you're kind of stuck with them. You
Right.
made a bad mistake. While some of them just keep selling all the time. And the ones that sell all the time, you can either do it or you can get a fulfillment company to do it. So a couple of them I've outsourced to a fulfillment company. So I get the order and then I email it to them and they package it up and send it off.
Mm-hmm.
So with some of them, and then some of them I've just I either fulfill them or I just eliminated the physical part. They can only get it digitally because there's just not enough of them being sold.
What were some of the fulfillment centers you were using?
All I used was a company called
Mm-hmm.
westpress.com, and they're out of Arizona. That's the only company that I've used. And the reason why I used them was they would print small quantities for me. They'd put it in the warehouse, and they would only charge me a fulfillment fee,
Hmm.
which was reasonable. So if with a lot of the other major companies, you kind of had to pay a monthly fee, or you had to have a minimum number of quantities.
Right.
I couldn't, I'm not big enough to do that. So with WestPress, what they'll do is they'll print off three or five or however I want, leave them in the warehouse, and let me know when it gets to one, and then they print off another five, and when we get down to one, they print off another five. So I've used them, and they've been really good. I've had I mean, I've had very little issues with them, like one or two minor issues.
That's interesting. So you still have some of your physical products, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. How many products do you have total right now, both combined, physical and digital? Put you on the spot here.
I, I probably have
Lots.
like what, 20,
Wow.
25 or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
20,
that's great
25.
because well, let me dive into that then because that's really fascinating because a lot of people are struggling just to come up with one product or idea to sell. You've got, let's say you've got 20, you know,
Mhm.
what's the process like for you when you develop a product? Walk me through start to finish kind of an outline of how you design it and how you sell it.
I think I think a lot of people when it comes to info products, they have this perception that it needs to be massive or huge to get done. And I made that mistake as well. When my first big package of stuff, I thought people would want more. So they got like 5 books and they bought all 5 books and I'd send it off to them. And based upon that, I thought, okay, I'll make huge manuals that are like 200 pages long on a specific topic. And what I found was people weren't reading it. It was encompassing. It was like a textbook. And what they would really be focusing in on was the exercise side of things. So what I did is I took a step back and I made them smaller, solving a specific problem. Whatever it might be. I have plantar fasciitis and I want an exercise program to help me with plantar fasciitis. So I end up thinning it down and just solving that specific problem. So, I mean, that ends up being the big problem is people think that people want more. They want this huge thing. And I'm finding people want a specific problem solved.
Mm.
And that's kind of the direction that I'm going. So let's say I'll get the ideas from a number of places. People will ask me in courses about specific things and they will keep coming up. People will email me questions that keep coming up. My clients will keep asking me questions, and then those end up being product ideas. And I try to slant all my stuff to injury. So, I had a number of people that end up having plantar fasciitis issues. So I put together 2 or 3 programs when it came to plantar fasciitis, and then it's like taking that program and moving it into a little bit more of an organized program. Like I am there to take them through it. So how would I do it with me not being there? So I would design the exercise program, which I already designed with 3 or 4 clients, and then I would have a little bit of a manual
Mm-hmm.
explaining the theory, a little bit of a video, and usually it would be some sort of screen capture video, and then the third thing would be going through the exercises, and that would be the program.
Okay.
And that's it. It's trying to keep it simple ends up being the biggest thing with the info side of things and solving a specific problem and realizing it doesn't need to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. You need to get it out there and then get feedback and then you tweak it and then you send out version 2.0. And I still make that I still have that problem that I still try to make it huge, adding all this stuff to it, and it ends up being big and confusing. I'm trying to get more and more uh, making it simple and solving a specific problem. That ends up being the big thing. Like,
Interesting.
you know,
Do you also create let's say an upsell for those products? You put your package together and have something else to offer with it?
I need to implement that, and I haven't
Okay.
because, and the reason why is, if I focus on a specific injury, sometimes it's difficult to find a complementary upsell that I've created,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I might have 20 or 25 products, but a lot of these are learning lessons that you ended up learning. Um, and some of them are successful, some of them aren't successful, some of them kind of help you understand the process, give you a better idea of what you should and shouldn't do. And I haven't implemented the upsell stuff. They get put into a specific autoresponder and offers will end up getting sent to them. So that's kind of one way to do it, but I haven't set up the upsell process for them. I'll over the next 6 months is probably something that I'll work on. Well, probably a little quicker than that. Probably over the next 2 or 3 months, I'll get that done.
Good, good. Do you find that when you're creating the products now that you're on 20 plus products that it's a lot easier? You've been through so many, just to start it up and get it done?
Yeah, it's a lot easier now, and it keeps getting easier um, because you need to make it simple. Like, and looking at what your strength is. So let's look at my example. I have a blog, but probably writing isn't my best thing. I'm not. it's not easy for me to do. What's easy for me to do is get up there and talk.
Hmm.
So what I did for one of my other products was I booked a room for a day, brought in a video camera, created a PowerPoint presentation, and then I went through the PowerPoint presentation like I was teaching a course to the camera about solving a specific problem. And that was much easier for me to do. So I ended up going through, I ended up creating one full big product. I ended up creating 2 free bonuses. I ended up creating another smaller product and then re-recording another product. And that ended up happening in 6 hours. And it's all done. Uh, so that's kind of, realizing what works for you, what are you good at, what do you like doing, and trying to make it as simple as possible, solving a specific problem. So it is getting easier and better as I do more and more of them.
Okay, because that's huge. I mean, you created a whole product with bonuses and everything in 6
Yeah.
hours, where a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's going to take me 6 to 8 months to do something." And you know
Uh-huh.
what? The product that you created was easy for you. You could probably charge the same amount as if it took you 6 to 8 months to sit down and write something out. So that was very
And
bright on
that's the
your end.
big thing, just getting it out. And the obstacle I have,
Hmm.
sometimes I just get lazy at doing the sales page, and I got to get the sale. I'm able to get the product done fast, but I've got to get to getting the sales page out and getting the message out there and getting it out faster. But you got to find out what works for you and what works for your market. Not saying that everything needs to be video, but I find that you want to appeal to everyone's media of preference. So some people like to read, some people like audio, some people like video. So in your product, you want a little bit of each.
Hmm.
Uh, that's kind of what I'm finding.
Okay, now here's something that I was really curious about, because I know you have a lot of products and you're in such a specialized niche. Is it easy or is it difficult for you to find affiliates for your products, or do you not even try to find them?
No, no. I mean, I'm able to find affiliate a bit when it comes to affiliates. It's like, building the relationship. Building the relationship, being out there, and people knowing and hearing about you. When people come to see you, meaning when they go to your blog or when they go to your product, they can see that it's solid. Like they go to your blog and they see that, this guy's taking action and this guy's going to succeed with or without your help. And when they go to your sales pages, things look solid. And if they look at your product, that your product looks solid. So that's kind of what affiliates are looking for. And you're always kind of looking for affiliates. If you have like a fitness professional product, and even if you have the public product. I've mainly done the fitness professional products, and I haven't had a difficult time finding affiliates. It's easy to find affiliates. Now, coming to some sort of arrangement where you can help each other out and promote each other is something that you need to kind of come to a common ground with. And now I'm kind of transitioning into the public, and it's not hard to find affiliates because, in my opinion, everyone that trains has an injury, so my product is perfect for everybody. And that's my opinion. I don't know. I can guarantee that with a personal trainer that's trained someone today, one person
Hmm.
has a back injury, one
Right.
person has a knee injury, one person has a shoulder injury. I can guarantee it. If you trained 8, or if you have a boot camp of 30 people, or if you've trained 8 to 10 people today, I think you'll have one of those injuries for everybody. Now, will everybody on your list want that? No, but you're help you need to be helping your clients
Right.
solve their problem, and some of them have that problem when it comes to their injuries.
Right. So when you can find the affiliates, no problem. And what are you doing to build that relationship and trust so that they will promote for you?
There's a number of things. You can ask them to do guest blog posts. You can do guest blog posts for them. A lot of them are looking for content. Um, other things are, promoting their product, providing them a testimonial for their product.
Hmm.
Um, you know, meeting them one-on-one, trying to go to events and meet them and talk with them and find out what's going on with them and seeing how you can end up helping them or helping one of their friends out. And then the other thing is converting, like having your product convert. If it's work and takes time to promote something, and if it converts, affiliates are kind of happy. And if it doesn't convert, it kind of discourages them from promoting something of yours again. And I mean, always offering something to the affiliates. It could be like a free report that they can end up sending to their list with no strings attached, or it can be a video that they can send to the list, no strings attached. So always trying to help them as much as you can. You don't need to go overboard, but let's say an affiliate's kind of helped you out and they have a launch coming out. Well, I mean, you can do a review for their product. You might not blast it out to your list, but you can do a review. You can put it on your Facebook page. You can put it on your Facebook page saying, hey, if you're looking for a program that does this, check this out. So there's a lot of good and there's a lot of little to big things that you can do, because the majority of people don't do anything. A lot of times when people approach affiliates, people will promise big things and not deliver, especially if you're a small or medium-sized individual. But if you start delivering, well, that ends up being the biggest thing.
Interesting. Now, you touched on something before that I know is important, but I want you to talk a little bit about it. You talked about converting. Would you recommend that people, if they have a product and they're approaching an affiliate, would you recommend that they've already sold the product and found out how it converts for them before they approach the affiliate, or should they just go straight to them and say, hey, listen, I know this is going to be good. Would you mind promoting for me?
I mean, there's kind of two ways of approaching it. I mean, you can have the confidence and you can go say, yeah, this is going to convert, and hopefully you convince a couple affiliates. But you're probably going to do better if you've driven some of your traffic or your list to it and got some numbers, and then it's easier for you to approach other affiliates. So a lot of times affiliates don't want to be the guinea pig of your product. And so you can drive your traffic, get some sales, get some feedback, tweak the sales page a bit. Then you can start approaching smaller affiliates saying, this is what happened when I emailed it out to my list. Maybe you should think about it. Then you can arrange something with them, a special week promo, like a 3-day promo with their list, or a special offer for their list. And then you get an idea of how their list ends up converting. Then you can take those numbers to another affiliate. So I almost I almost kind of prefer a ladder approach where, the first you get everything done, and the first step is you promoting it to your list, getting some numbers, tweaking things, moving up the ladder, taking it to maybe a small or medium affiliate where you've kind of built a relationship. Let's say you're at the same level. You're like, well, can you do me a favor and promote this? You get some numbers from them. You can make some more tweaks, and you can kind of move up the ladder saying, hey, this guy promoted, this was his conversion, this was how many hops he had. I think it'd be a good match for your list. And you kind of work your way up the ladder to more and more people. That's what I would find that ends up working the best, because, that would be my advice.
Okay, you talked about hops. A lot of people may not know what they are, so that makes me think that you're using ClickBank to sell most of your products, your digital products. Is that correct?
Yeah, I end up mainly using ClickBank. Okay. So a hop is when someone clicks onto an affiliate link. That ends up being a hop or one click. And, you're looking at, you want a good percentage of those clicks going to sales.
Okay. All right. So you've got, you use affiliates to help make sales. You've sold through your presentations. You're selling through your email newsletter list. Are you doing any sort of advertising, like Facebook ads for it or Google AdWords to try and sell your products?
I haven't done any of that, and I've really struggled with that the last month or two. And a part of it kind of goes back to like what I was saying, like what kind of person are you? Are you a little bit of are you do you like poker and do you like blackjack and you're kind of cool with, you know, jumping into the circle of Facebook ads and Google AdWords because you kind of like that kind of gambling, and if you can make it work, it can be very, very successful for you? Or are you more of a networker and, networking with potential affiliates, networking with other bloggers, helping other up and coming bloggers? Are you that kind of a person? Or are you a content generator? Can you pump out the content? Can you pump out the videos? So you need to kind of figure out what kind of person you are. I mean, if you can figure out how to convert paid traffic into sales, I mean, that's unbelievable.
Hmm.
Very few people have, and far more people have lost a lot of money doing it. But if you can figure it out, unbelievable. Then are you a networker? And if you can build a network of people that ends up helping each other out, that can be very, very successful. And then lastly, it's kind of the content thing. I mean, a lot of blogs are looking for content. It can be unique content for their blogs. It can be interviews. It can be YouTube videos. That also is a lot more valuable. And probably in the long run, it could be more valuable because as you add more and more content to the internet, it ends up helping you out. You end up getting
Right.
backlinks to your blog or your website. You end up taking over more of the internet because you have more and more of you on the internet.
Hmm.
Um, so you've got to figure out what you are. And what I am, I'm a good networker, and networking with other people live or blogs or other potential affiliates. And I'm good when it comes to creating content. Those are kind of my two things. They are slower ways of growing, but once again, they're solid ways of growing because Google AdWords, they can
Yeah.
change their minds. Like,
Right.
okay, we don't like you anymore. You're banned for life. Or Facebook can go, you know
Right.
what? We want to make more money and we're doubling things. We're increasing the price twofold.
Right.
While, the networking and the content, they're solid things. They kind of, if you do them,
Right. Right. Now
gives
I
you
know that you're good at content and networking because that's how I actually found you. You're everywhere, which is really good on your part. I
and
found out
and that
about
is
you.
an important and that's an
Yeah.
important thing. You want to be everywhere.
You
And
comment on every person's blog that I know and I follow, so I know that that's a strategy. Now that obviously may not bring a ton of traffic, but it put you on my radar. Like
yeah.
way back, and that's how I know that that's what you're good at. And comment a little bit on that. Was that a strategy that you decided that was important for you, or was it just you just doing it?
It was one of the strategies, right? I mean, you look, and if you look at search engine optimization, what they say is don't comment on blogs because the backlinks are no follow, blah blah blah. But it's that branding, and that's the branding of you and you being everywhere and you being everywhere where your market is. And that's kind of what I did for a period of time. I was commenting on a whole bunch of different blogs where my market potentially would be.
Right.
And that was one of the approaches that I would end up doing because you end up branding your face and you're kind of everywhere and you're every on everyone's blog. So that's one
Hmm.
of the things that I ended up doing.
Yeah, and it's worked well for you. I still see you, like I don't know how you get to where you are. You're like the first comment on all these things all the time. You're hustling your ass off with that. So
And that's
congrats.
another you got to hustle. You got
Yeah.
to hustle and you got to be consistent. So you got to be everywhere. You got to hustle. You're always doing something. Um, and and you got to keep creating new stuff.
All right. Now tell me about having a coach. I know you're part of a mastermind group. That's very important. How much has that helped you being part of that group?
It ends up being really good. So I'm part of Craig Ballantyne's and Bedros Keuilian's Info Mastermind group, and it's been really good to be a part of that group because it helps in a number of ways. End up having access to people that have been there and done that. So what they can do is you can send them a question and they can look over something and they can save you hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars saying that's a bad idea or you should do this. It's invaluable. It's very much like you approaching Donald Trump and saying, is this a good real estate deal?
Hmm.
You could spend years trying to figure it out and gambling a ton of money, and he'd probably say yes or no in 1 minute. Other thing is you end up getting put into a group, into a room of people that are passionate about succeeding online. So you have all this energy and all these people that end up providing feedback that you can bounce ideas off of. They can end up being potential affiliates. They can end up allowing you to do guest blog posts, which ends up
Hmm.
giving you backlinks back to your website. You end up doing videos with them, which ends up putting you on YouTube. Um, and also, Craig and Bedros, they know everybody. So a lot of
Right.
times their friends will end up coming to the groups and hanging out. And when it allows you to end up meeting these info marketers that you probably would never ever get a chance to meet because they're really hard to meet, and you get to hang around with them and talk to them. Also, you end up having access like you can email Bedros and Craig. There's a forum that we're all a part of where we can end up interacting and helping each other out. So it's been really invaluable. And then the last thing is it ends up opening up doors because you can say that you're part of this group when you approach affiliate, and an affiliate's like, okay, this guy's kind of serious with what he's doing. So it's kind of important to kind of get some coaching or reach a point where it's okay, time to get some coaching. It's very much like a lot of people hire a personal training because they need coaching to help them with their fitness goal, their injury or their fitness goal. And it's no different for you
Hmm.
if your goal is to kind of build an info business or build a business online. You kind of need some guidance from some people that have done it before because that'll end up speeding things up for you.
Right. Right. Very cool. Now let me ask you this one. You've done so much stuff going on, all these things. You're so busy, part of mastermind groups. I know you've trained for Ironmans, run marathons, all this stuff. You're so busy. What's next for you, and how are you finding the time to do everything?
Well, what's next for me? I mean, I've done a lot of stuff when it comes to fitness professional. Now I'm going to shift more into the public. So I'm
Okay.
probably going to do more stuff related to injuries when it comes to the public. So now I'm going to go into that market a little bit more and try to figure that out. That's the direction that I'm going, and try to build my online info business because I really enjoy the training side of things and training people one on one. But the amazing thing about being online is you can end up helping thousands of people online, and it's unbelievably
Yeah.
powerful. I know the thinking when it comes to personal training, it has to be one on one. You have to see face to face, and I definitely see the importance of that. And people have come to see me from all over from around me to get training sessions with me and get my insight on their injuries. But
Hmm.
then it's cool to go on the internet and now you can help people from around the world, where Dubai and South Africa and Lebanon, and help them with their injuries or their problems. And that's kind of exciting to kind of
Yeah.
help more people around the world. So I'm excited to kind of do more of that. And what's next? I think the big thing is trying to build this info business is my next step, and trying to find the balance when it comes
Right.
to personal and professional and family, because I do end up I do work a lot, and I'm definitely put in a hard 8 to 10 hours a day.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I always like to ask this. We're going to wrap up. I always like to know what some of the failures are because it helps to find where you came from and what you've overcome. So, what's maybe one or two like big failures that you've had, and what have you learned from them?
Oh, the failure thing.
It's a tough question, but it's always there's always one or two things that we've learned from.
Hmm. I'm trying to think what one of my big failures are. I, Maybe I don't view them as failures. I view them as
Awesome.
learning experiences. I mean, I think the big thing, and maybe that is a lesson that you might invest something into, um, might invest a lot of time into something, and it might not be as successful as you wanted it to be, but that ends up being a learning lesson. So let's say there's two products that I kind of created and I put a fair bit of time into them, and they weren't as successful as I wanted them to be. So you invest all this time and they're not as successful. It can end up being frustrating, but you end up learning, like, why wasn't that a success? You know, Was the message incorrect? Was there something wrong with the sales page? Did I communicate to people
Mm-hmm.
in a wrong way? So you end up trying to learn from the mistake. I think that ends up being a big thing. And then also success ends up taking some time. I think that ends up being a big lesson. I think we all
Yeah.
want it to happen right away, but it's more it's you're building a business and it takes time to build the business. You got fast points, you got slow points, you got medium speed points. I think those are my two big lessons that
Right.
some products flop, but you need to look at the lessons that you can get out of them. And then the second thing is you're building a business. It takes time to build that business and trying to do key things every single day that build that business.
Very cool. Well,
No
Rick,
different than exercise, right? I mean,
yeah.
if we can all exercise one day a year and exercise 24 hours that one
Mm,
day, but it's probably better for us to exercise consistently throughout the year, a
yep.
little bit every single day, as opposed to all at once.
Great point to end on there. And Rick, you've been awesome here. You've given some amazing tips for everybody on here. I want people to know more about you. So where can they go to find out information on your products and what you're doing?
Yeah, if, people can head to exercisesforinjuries.com. That's kind of my main blog when it comes to fitness professionals and injuries. And then my services site is healingthroughmovement.com. So people can go to those two places and uh, you know see what I'm doing and email me and if they have any questions. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome, Rick. Appreciate the time. Thank you for everything.
No problem. Thanks.